Welcome to the Gospel According to Kinison, and I am your host, Bill Kinison, and we want to welcome you this morning to one of the best messages and lessons that we have ever given to you. We're coming live to you from beautiful southern sunny California, where it's the first full day of fall, and it's supposed to be close to 100 degrees here. So that's the kind of fall that I like, and we've had such a wonderful week. You know, I was thinking last week, and I didn't say anything about it, but 9/11. And I was thinking that may be one of the very few times, if not the only time in my life, that people were not Democrats, they were not Republicans, they weren't libertarians, they were Americans. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could be that all the time? And for a few days after that tragedy, I remember so well that we were just Americans. And it was a wonderful feeling. We're going to minister here in just a few moments on healing and the healing power of two things. And we'll touch a little bit on one, and then I want to get into the other. And God still heals, but He has given us power that we're able to heal. Physician, heal thyself. And I've got several friends that need a touch from God physically today. One is Paul Calaccio, a very, very, very close friend that is going through a physical battle. And we're standing with Paul, and we're believing God that everything will turn out in his favor. And then another good friend, Eddie Candela, is getting ready for a heart procedure. And we want to remember him in prayer. And then we prayed for him last week, and went through surgery just great on replacing a hip. But doing that therapy sometimes a little difficult. So we want to remember Jerry D., our photographer and friend first. But anyway, we want to remember at least those three people. Roxanne Beska, that we've been praying for, from what I understand, is doing great in rehab. And I'm going to tell you, that's almost like a miracle, even though there are no miracles to God. They're only miracles to us. And we want to welcome you to this program, especially you new folks. And we're gaining new people every single week. Every week we gain new people. And we want to welcome you to our program. I probably need to make a disclaimer that we ordinarily make at the start, and that is for the next 25 minutes, I would ask that you take the foundations of what you believe and just set them on a shelf for 25 minutes. Because sometimes what we teach may not fit into the foundations of what you've been taught and what you believe. I have no motivation in anything other than giving you the truth as I see it, the gospel according to Kinison. I have no other motivation. I don't have to answer to a church board. I don't have to answer to an organization. I can just get up here every Sunday morning and give to you what is down in my heart. I don't know about you. That's the kind of teacher that I would love to sit under, is someone that isn't doing it for the money. They're not doing it. They're not teaching a certain thing because they're afraid if they don't, they're going to get kicked out of the organization. And that's a little bit of what we teach. And you'll find out today. You know, one of the first things that I have found that is a healing power and it will bring you success. One of the very first things is commitment. Commitment. As I look through to the life of Jesus, he was committed to whatever he did, completely committed. I'll use my own personal family as as an example, and I'm sure you have members of your family. But I had an older brother named Richard that was born severely mentally handicapped and blind. But he was committed to being well. Even though everyone else, they took him to the child doctor and Dr. Milton Litters, and he said he should be put into an institution. He's never going to retain much knowledge. He's not going to be able to compete with his brothers. He's uncoordinated. He's blind, totally blind in one eye. The nerve was dead, and could only see 20/400 out of the other eye. And gave him all these reports, and my parents were going to have him committed into a state institution, and they brought out a waiver of his death certificate and said, if you don't want to know when he dies, just sign this waiver because he'll belong to the state and they'll take care of it. And that just shook up my parents. But Richard never wavered. He was committed to being well. And at the age of 13, he said an angel appeared to him and told him, you're healed. And at the age of 13, he started school all over again with me. And I was 2 years younger, and we graduated from high school together. And the man that gave us our high school diploma was Dr. Milton Litters. I mean, God knows how to work things out. I had a brother named Sam Kinison, the famous comedian, that decided he should be a stand-up comedian. And he came out here to L.A., was a doorman for 5 years, but he was committed. And his commitment never wavered until finally he found that success. Rodney Dangerfield gave him that break, and he took advantage of it. End up being what a lot of the comedy experts, I guess if you call them that, say he's one of the top 5 stand-up comedians of all time. I'm here to tell you, you must be committed. What is your ailment today? Be committed to the healing of that. Be committed to it until there's no other option for you. This is the way it's going to be, and you're going to be committed on that. I want to tell my friend Paul this morning, be committed on that healing. God is going to take care of you. I'm standing with you. He said one could put 1,000 to flight, but 2 could put 10,000 to flight. I'm standing with you. I believe God is going to give you the healing and the victory. We'll talk a lot more on that on another Sunday, but commitment will bring healing to you. It will bring success to you, but you must be committed to it. There is no other alternative for you. You're going to be well. And you make that up in your mind. You're going to be well. I want to minister this morning on the second healing power. The healing power of love. The healing power of love. In our study of love, it is doubtful that we have come up with with anything close to a definition of love. It's much like the wind. You can't see it, but you can feel it. Love is much like that. And I doubt that we have really come up with anything close to a definition of love. What we have been doing is suggesting a few things of love that love is not. The Greek philosopher Zeno said that the most necessary part of learning is to unlearn our errors. I want to repeat that because it's one of my favorite readings that I've ever had. I think it is so rich and powerful. The Greek philosopher Zeno said the most necessary part of learning is to unlearn our errors. I remember my father used to, he'd say basically the same thing, but the way he would put it is, the knowledge of ignorance is the beginning of knowledge. When you start realizing you don't know anything, that's when you're starting to learn. And that's when you're starting to know something. Now I want to tell you this morning, even spiritually and religiously, the only way that you're going to progress is to unlearn your errors. That's the beginning of learning. And it's the most necessary part of learning is to unlearn your errors. Don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to do that. I think in church is probably the biggest area where people are afraid to step beyond what their belief is. We progress in every other part of our life except spiritually. The statements and beliefs of Pentecostal organizations, especially the Assembly of God, Baptist, Church of God in Christ, they all have the same statement of belief, word for word, by the way. They all have the exact same one. It has not changed one word in over 200 years. Yet we progress in every other part of our life except spiritually. We have so many erroneous thoughts of love. You can ask 10 people what they think love is, you're going to get 10 different answers. We have thought of love as an emotion. We have thought of it as sentimentality. We have thought of it as a sexual experience and as something we fall into and out of. All erroneous thoughts of love. I can't give you a definition, but I can tell you what love is. Love is life expressing its fullness. Love is life expressing its fullness. Under the sustaining influence of love, this is really what I want to start getting to this morning. Under that sustaining influence of love, the physical body is always at its best. I want you to think of when you fell in love with that wife or girlfriend or husband or boyfriend. I want you to think how everything in life seemed to just work perfectly. The reason is that sustaining influence of love and the physical body, it affects your physical body. The physical body is at its best when you're under the influence of love. Many people, now I want you to pay attention to this. Many people are sick from lack of love in their lives than all other causes put together. Now that's a big statement, but it's true. I want to repeat it. More people are sick from the lack of love in their lives than in all the other causes put together. When Jesus emphasized such things as love one another, love your neighbors as yourself, love your enemy, go the second mile, he was dealing with the power of love. Man, I know this is a little different than you're gonna hear in your church, but it's good. It's good. He wasn't saying that you should be loving and forgiving because other people deserve it. That's not what he was saying. He wasn't saying that somebody does something, you forgive them because they deserve to be forgiven. That's not what he was saying. He was saying that you cannot afford to dwell on what others do. You can't afford to do that. But you must guard how you react to what they do. Again, I had a very, very wise father, and he used to tell me, it's not what other people do to you, it's how you react to it. And that's exactly how it is. Jesus wasn't telling us to be loving and forgiving because the people that did us wrong deserve to be loved and deserve to be forgiven. No, he was telling us you can't afford to dwell on what others do. But you have to regard on how you react to what others do to you. He was saying, and he knew, that you cannot afford not to dwell in the fullness of love, which is the key to health and healing. That's what the whole message was. That's what the whole message was. I've seen Christians so passive and abused and used because they never understood what the scriptures meant that I'm explaining to you. When Jesus would say things, why he was saying it. You see, man was created that it cannot survive in health and wellness without love. That's how we were created. We cannot survive in health or wellness without love. We are created in and of love. Yes, you are. I want you to stop and think about it. We are created in and of love. We were created in the image and likeness of God, and we have said this so many times, I hope it's drilled into your head. We were created in the image and likeness of God, and God is love. So, that means we're created in the image and likeness of love. Anything less than love in the mind and heart of man causes tension and it causes stress. Stress is the number one cause of cancer, is stress. So anything less than love in the mind and in the heart of man causes tension and stress. Hatred, bitterness, even unfriendliness frustrates the healing process. Now, I want you to listen to this whole lesson over again when we're off, because it is so vital. I think it's one of the most important messages I've ever given to you. Hatred, bitterness, and even unfriendliness frustrates the healing process. It interferes with the normal renewal of cells and the flow of vital healing fluids. That's how important love is. More than this, moods that are unloving. Boy, I know I'm going to hit some of you here this morning. Actually creates harmful fluids and even toxic poisons in your body. Just unfriendly moods. I want to show you how this works. I want you to consider the person who receives news that a close friend or a close relative is dead. Suddenly, the person mysteriously manufactures and releases something. What they release is a quantity of saline liquid called tears. Beyond their control. They get a message. They get a phone call. They get a text that a close relative or a very close friend has died. and the body reacts with this saline or reacts with tears. The tears were not there in this system before the bad news came. I want you to think about this. Yet in a few minutes, in a few moments, there is brought into existence enough liquid to soak a handkerchief. The same process, I can feel you listening. The same process is involved in the creation of fluids that eat at the lining of the stomach and the poison in various parts of your system. Young mothers, I really want you to pay attention to this. This is true. Young mothers are often told to encourage happy and contented and loving thoughts while she is feeding her baby at her breast, because her feelings can actually change the chemical constitution of her breast milk. Whoa. There are actually known records of mothers engaging in heated arguments through the actions of emotions, which release and create toxins within the body, actually altering the chemical contents of some of the body's important fluids. Now, I'll put this down real basic for you. The body contains bacteria which are healthy and friendly to the system. The so-called saprophytes. That's the bacteria that your body has. But a change in the chemical composition of saprophytes, in which these benign bacteria may live, may possibly convert friendly bacteria into hostile ones, changing the saprophytes into parasites. All on whether or not you're loving. It's important to you to be loving. Don't worry about who you're loving to. They may not deserve it, but you need to do it for you. You see, conditions of disease can be set up not by infective sources outside the body, but through the action of the emotions which release or create toxins within the body, actually altering the chemical contents of some of the body's important fluids. People have puzzled, and I've had people ask me this over and over, but they puzzled over the idea of God as the origin of all life, because of the conclusion that life, that he must have also caused or created disease, germs, and illness. But it's more likely that God, the creative process, makes all bacteria good, and that it is a negative emotions of anger or worry or fear or hate that have poisoned the system and brought hostile organisms into being. So we like to blame God for a lot of things, but that's not one. You see, love is not simply a force acting within and upon the body. Studies have proved that plants grow faster and better in a home of a loving atmosphere. Maybe that's why I don't have a green thumb. Now let's just talk. You see, it is a tremendous burden to dislike people or to be involved in bitterness and hatred or condemnation. That's a heavy burden. That's a heavy burden. Think about it. Think about when you've hated someone or you've had real bitterness and just think about the burden that you feel. We can try to justify ourselves by saying, well, you should know what he's done to me, or after the way they've treated me, or you don't know them. Well, that's the way most people think. That's the way most people live. We are happy if we're surrounded by happy experiences, but we're upset if conditions are disturbing. It's also why there is so much indigestion and heart and circulatory elements in the Western culture more than any other culture. It's because of our hate and our bitterness. It's so comforting to know that life is lived from the inside out. Begin every day with, in the beginning, love. Next week we're going to pick this up because I'm going to tell you about getting old and how we blame everything for getting old. Sherry and I don't know if I should even tell you this, but I will. We were looking at, we're not anymore, but we were looking at senior living. Then finally, after we looked at several, I just told Sherry, I said, I can't live with these old people. I just can't do it. They're grouchy. They're unhappy. They're mean. I can't do it. I can't do it. Sherry and I, and the people tell us all the time, and I think they're right, for our age, we don't act and we don't look like our age. And they'll ask us all the time, what's the secret? I can tell you what the secret is. Sherry and I have spent our lives, literally our lives, loving other people. In the ministry, in what we do now, the theater, we love people. We love people. That doesn't mean there's some of them that don't get under my skin. That doesn't mean that there's some of them that I go, you just don't live in my world anymore. Anyhow, we want to bring this to a close. We'll pick this up next week. I think it's a tremendous lesson. We want to also pray for 4-year-old Micah Carney. Is that right? Who was diagnosed with leukemia this week. Let's stand together for Micah. Let's you and I stand together for healing for Micah. Also, Eric Cupp, family member of Sherry's, and his family, just a wonderful family in Rockford. Down in the Carolinas, we're praying that his home will be okay when they get to go home. So we want to remember them in prayer. I want to remember you in prayer. I want you to join with me. What do you want God to do for you? Are you willing to be committed? Are you willing to change your reaction of how other people treat you? If you are, you can have what you want. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this opportunity to teach these folks, and I ask you to give them their healing. I ask you, give them their blessing. I ask you to renew their youth and let them have a new outlook on life. Let them love like they've never loved before. I ask you to touch this 4-year-old Micah. I ask that it comes out okay for Eric. I ask you to heal Paul. I ask that you give Eddie a wonderful report. Lord, I ask that you touch Jerry D's hip. And I'll give you all the praise. Amen. We'll see you next Sunday. I'm looking forward to it. God bless you.